keeping it on the radar. You know, some people say that, oh, I can't mention the gender challenge. People say, we've got fatigue over that, we've been talking about it for 30 years. Are we there yet? Well, we're not. How do you think we can keep it ripe?
I think we're at a time now where the movement is incredibly energised. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. So I think it's exciting to have cross-generational discussions where you have second wave feminists saying, look, we went through this all these years ago, we thought we'd get much further. We have such hope in your generation. I mean, I have such hope in Gen Ys and millennials. But also for them to understand that they stand on the shoulders of giants, that there've been great leaps forward and we need to keep pressing forward or we risk going backwards. I think that's an important message and conversation to have. What do you think that we can do?
I think it's, you're right, I think it's the responsibility of everybody as well, and we all have a part in it, and the people that are saying it doesn't actually affect me, I haven't seen it, I think they're the ones as well that we need to bring in the story too, because they're all part of the system. So it's, I suppose, about educating in a positive way rather than showing everybody what we're not doing. We really need to be able to see that positive change.
I think you're so right at the moment because people do have fatigue about discussing the problem.
Yes.
Pretty sure we know what the problem is. Let's talk about practical strategies and solutions, you know, walk the walk as well as talking the talk.
That's true. And also to be able to share, you know, the steps forward, what people have done on an individual and organisational basis too.
Definitely sharing the positive stories and continuing the pressure at the very top end. It's got to be top down and bottom up. So people don't forget. I always hark back to the suffragettes, how they fought so hard. And then the First World War came around and everyone was involved in the war effort, and understandably so. So women didn't get the right to vote until the late 1920s because of that. So we really need to keep the pressure on government and on business before there's something else that happens that takes the focus away. It's important to get as many changes now because we don't often have these moments in history.
And I think it's the bigger picture as well. So yes, I like the idea of top down, bottom up, but also looking at schools, looking at our childcare centres, you know, look at the language that our children, grandchildren are all part of as well, because I think if we start at the ground, we can actually create, and the mums and dads involved with that story too, because they're going to be our future leaders as well. And it's amazing how many stories we get stuck in terms of our bias. We don't even realise, that's not my picture, that's my parents, that's my mum's story. Where did that come from? And how we can shift it.
And that starts from the language we use around babies and toddlers from very young. I've got a 11 and 13-year-old and they've been brought up in a very, you know, equitable household. You know, we always talk about gender politics and that kind of stuff, which is very unusual. Yeah. But my son, who's just turned 13, has got this teenage oppositional thing going on where he debates me about that all the time. You know, he says I've gone too far with, you know, with sexism, you know, all of this kind of stuff, and women have too much power now. So I think we need to talk about the language we use around our tweenage kids, because there's a backlash in the schoolyard against feminism at the moment. It's not seen as cool by that age group, particularly by the boys. It's something I've just seen in the last couple of months, so I think we need to be really on guard with things like that. Is that the kind of area that you think we should be putting some education in?
Absolutely. I think it's teachers going into, or starting out, you know, as part of their degree and looking at how they educate, but also understand what their own bias is, but also having more of a community focus, and then supporting women and men to be able to have that extra structure so that if they have to go away or work back late, there's actually community to support the family as well. And it can be equal across, whether it's, I mean, the amount of times that we speak in our sessions that, you know, they have a stay-at-home husband and they feel really isolated. You know, they find it really difficult. So the woman's really comfortable going to work, but then has to battle the challenge at home. So we need to be able to create that inclusive environment for men and get them to be championing it as well.
Because it's good for men as well to be more hands-on with their kids. Equality starts in the lounge room before the boardroom.
Yes, I like that. Yes, very true. And to be able to have the choice of who's going to stay. Still, people will say that I still get the call from school to say, and I'm in New York on a course, and I've told them that I've gone away, and they won't ring Dad. But they said, oh, but you're the mother. So we need to change those conversations and really understand the communication chain as well.
Definitely. Because, equality and flexibility, it's good for the workplace, good for the family, it's good for society as a whole.
Yeah, and making sure that nobody feels guilty about that choice as well. I think that's important too. And I think also looking at the progression we can see, and how I was working with a senior partner recently, and she said now what she does in their law firm is actually look at the career growth for everyone and see who's not getting the opportunities and who is getting the opportunities. And they often see that, the people that don't have the career break get the step up, so they need to make sure those women that are coming back in have got those steps too.
Definitely, and there's a lot of levers that can be pulled for businesses to do that, but often it's so low on their agenda and their priority list that they just don't think to do it. And that's where, people within workplaces, on the factory floor effectively can make change, and to put it higher up in the agenda by saying, look, if you want to keep me your valued employee, this is what I'd really love to see you do.
Yes, and that's where we can put the onus on the individual, which is exciting. And they'll get the new recruits that, because they're looking around wanting that workplace that offers that championing and that flexibility as well.
Definitely.
So it's a win-win, isn't it?
I think it's a win-win. So lovely talking to a like-minded woman about this.
We could sit in the coffee shop all day, couldn't
We could drink them out of chai.
Yeah, we could.